Hey YouTube, this is Multi-Craftsman here. This is a 4-inch, they might call it a milling vise or a drilling vise, I'm not sure which. But I picked it up off of eBay real cheap. It's supposed to be new. This is one of those I had never used before. It doesn't have screws on this, threads on this rod here. It's got this little lever. You're supposed to be able to push this thing forward up against something, flip this little lever up, and it's supposed to hold. Well, I bought this thing and I didn't really have a need for it, but it was pretty cheap. It was on sale. It was, I don't remember. I've seen them much more expensive on eBay, but this one was fairly cheap. And I don't really remember what I paid for it, but it wasn't a lot. Anyway, I didn't have a use for it and I just throwed it over to the side. Well, it's about 6 months later before I actually drug it out of the box and tried to use it. And I clamped it down and I was going to drill a hole in something and the piece just fell out. Well, I did that many times, trying all different ways of pushing real hard and pulling backwards and pushing forward. Then I noticed there's a little adjustment screw up under here, so I tried screwing that in, flipping this thing, and it didn't hold. Well, I flipped it over and I was going to just see what's wrong with the thing. Well, inside, one of the things that's in there is a little thing like this. It's supposed to grab the rod, and when you flip that lever, it's supposed to put some pressure on it, but mine is broke. And one of the reasons it's broke is this little piece is cast. That's not a mill piece of steel like it should be. I mean, this is cast. I mean, look how thin the side, you see how my finger is, compared to my finger there, that's real thin milling. Nobody but a Chinese that I know of would try to make a part that's going to have force on it, make it out of cast. I'm not going to say nothing else. Anyway, it's not very good. It's not a good part. And I was thinking about, well, you know, I could weld it, because welding cast is never very good. And since it was weak to begin with, my repair would probably be a little bit weaker than it was originally, which it wasn't worth a crap originally, so it will be worth less than a crap. Anyway, I decided on a whole new thing. I'm going to make a project out of it. No, I'm not going to make one out of steel. I think I could. I don't think it would be that big a deal to make one out of steel. But I don't like it. I just don't trust it. And I want a good one. So, I've taken this loose, taken some of the guts out of it. And what I am going to do is, I am going to take this rod and I am going to cut the threads. I'm gonna make this a good project. I'm gonna cut some Acme threads on this. I'm gonna make a nut, and I'm gonna make a handle for this end. I'm gonna see if I can't turn a piece of crap from you know where into something that's actually usable. Alright, I just want to show what my project's going to be. Right now I haven't done any of it. As you can see, there's no threads here. I just grinded a couple of 2 bits. Since I'm going to make the nut also, then I got to make some kind of little threading bar. Since this thing is not very big around, it's got to be kind of small. So that's been my project, and so far I've just grounded a couple of little 2 bits, and I'm in the process of beginning. Okay, this is step 1. Okay, here is the two bits that I just ground down. This smaller one is going to be for cutting the internal threads on a nut that I'm going to make, and the bigger one is going to be for cutting the external threads. This here is an Acme gauge. I don't know, is it possible to focus? I guess someday I'm going to have to learn how to use a camera. There we go. It's upside down. 29-degree Acme threads. Threading gauge. You can see the little notches here where the point, I'm going to be cutting an 8. Where is my thing? Oh. Where the 8, the point is supposed to match the groove right here. Both of them supposed to match this angle right here, and they do as near as I can get them. Let's see, yeah, this one too. No, this one is bigger. I mean, it's still basically the same thing. The little point's going to fit right in there. Okay. So the angle on the Acme thread cutting tools is 29 degrees when the angle on a regular cutting tool is 60 degrees. And the compound here, which is set 30 or 29, or whichever your favorite is set on 14 and a half, or half of the 29. And other than that, you still set up for cutting whatever number of threads per inch. I will cut the same as my threaded. Oh Lord, I won't be around very much longer. Don't worry, folks. My memory is about shot. I'm destined for the old folks' home here before long. The ride that drives the thing. I mean, yeah, I know it about like my own name, whatever it is. So anyway, you set the gears the same way. I'm going to be cutting 8 threads per inch, so 8 threads per inch on Acme threads or regular threads, it's going to be the same. Alright, but we ain't quite to that step yet. Oh, this is a little device from Tom's Techniques. Tom designed this little thing. I think he said on the video for his dad. And when I got a milling machine, which I just got a milling machine, this was my second project. Now I did the threaded rod and the little piece here in the middle, and the square-headed screws. I did those on the lathe, but then the cutting on this piece I did on my new milling machine. And of course I had to modify Tom's technique just a little bit. His was pretty much flat across here, and mine's got a pretty big angle coming up here, but I didn't follow the angle. I just cut a big square, and then the little threaded bar up under the bottom cut it down to fit up in that groove. At least that's the way I did mine. He didn't have to do his, and he had to put a big notch on the outside of his, and I didn't really need to. I just cut a little bit of a groove here, just enough to clear this adjustment wheel. But I haven't really had a chance to use it other than I just set it here. It's like a stop to keep me from running into the chuck right now. So you know, I'm absent-minded. Put a little reminder here to remind me, hey, there's a chuck up here. You know, you don't want to run into that sucker. So anyway, but that's another project. I just thought I like it, and I just thought I'd show Tom's Techniques a bone, and he does a mighty good job on making the YouTubes Alright, catch you later. Hey YouTube, on my vise project I mentioned that I was going to have to make a cutting bar to cut some internal Acme threads, and this is the cutting bar that I have made. It was a piece of square stock, 1/2 inch I believe, and I've cut a groove. Well, what's the groove? Oh yeah, this is number 2 threading bar. Number 1 threading bar had problems. It made this. This is my nut that I had made. I figured I needed to make some samples or test pieces, if you wish to call them. So it did this okay. It did a good job threading Acme threads on the inside. You know, this is kind of long, so I had to turn this down a little bit right here, and you see I marked it so that when it clears the inside, it's a little bit hard to see up on the inside, and I don't have far to go, so I put a little mark there so when that cleared my piece here, I knew to stop. And with the bit sticking in here, it barely clears. I don't really have much room. Anyway, this is a small thing. You see it's way smaller than my finger, so it's not strong, but it worked. I mean, it did the job. It cut this nut. But the problem is that this is an aluminum test piece, just like this is an aluminum test piece. I figured if I could make one out of aluminum, if I had any problems, I could just throw them away. My bar that's coming out of my vise, I don't want to throw away. And I can also use these. I can use this nut to test mine because I made these to the exact same size as the bar. I think this bar checked out at about 0.588, you know, just a little over 1/2 inch. So I cut this one down to 0.588. I know that's a non-standard number, but it doesn't matter, and I don't want to make it any smaller than what it was. And since I'm making these myself, it doesn't matter what size they are, just so long as I get the thread pitch right and all that technical stuff. So I'm just going to use the bar at its original size and turn it down, put Acme threads on it, and then I made a nut to match. So I had to have a bar that would fit up in there, and this one barely does. But the other one, the first one I had, I milled a little slot, and I slid this little high-speed steel piece, I think it's about 1/8, up in there, and I had 2 set screws up on top. And well, it was okay for aluminum. Aluminum's kind of soft, and it cut pretty good. But when I went to steel was a little tough, and it started moving the little bar thing. The little set screws wouldn't hold. Actually, it started flexing my whole piece, you know. Anyway, the little end here just wasn't working. It slid up in, and then I had to reset, realign everything. That happened about 2 dozen times, so finally I just said enough. And I took it over and ground the end off. With this one, I bored a hole here on the end, and then I kind of rounded my little cutting piece off on the bottom, and I could slide it up in the hole. And I put 1 set screw on the end to hold it. But this thing is pretty tight anyway, and there's 1 little set screw on the end holds it. So anyway, this did a much better job. It was already, my steel one was already very close. I could already start my aluminum Acme thread test piece up in it, but it needed to go a little bit more. So I remade it, made it a little bit better. I'm going to throw it in my toolbox. I may use it again now. But anyway, it got the job done. It cut it out a little bit deeper, and now I have my nut done for it. Okay.